welcome to the very first episode of pickHERupper. I am going to be your host, Jazzy J, or Jazzmyne Kierra, if you're fancy and want to give me a last name. So pickHERupper is meant to be an educational, uplifting, and encouraging lifestyle brand. My aim is to just provide support to people going through different situations in a variety of ways. So on my Instagram page, you'll find like funny memes and inspirational quotes. Here, I wanted to provide a podcast that you're able to kind of listen and identify with. And I have so many, other things in store for the brand, but this is just what we're getting started with. So I decided to do this because last year I personally was going through kind of a depressive episode, and I am someone who is very into mental health and all of those kinds of things. So I did seek therapy, but through everything, what I really realized is I didn't want to overburden my family and my friends with my problems. With therapy, you only have a certain amount of time. And I was on Talkspace. Like, I was able to text my therapist. And even then, there was only just so much that you could get across and be able to kind of really connect with your therapist with. So I wanted to provide something that's topical, that discusses different things that people are able to kind of identify with and seek guidance when they're going through it. So I hope it helps. And today's topic is going to be about problematic family members, not problematic. So yeah, let's get into it. Alrighty, so this is story time, where every week I might share a story of my own or share something from the internet that I found that I identify with. So this week I am reading a story that I found published on BBC News in the story section, and it's from Gina Atanuke Knight. And if I pronounced Atanuke wrong, please forgive me. My Nigerian I'm working on it. Work in progress always. So Gina Atanuke Knight's white mom loved her, but her childhood in a white family meant it took years to embrace her blackness. Her hair was one of the first things she came to love, which is why she became a hair blogger and wig maker. So the story goes, when I was 8 or 9, my family started going on caravan holidays, which in like the BBC, that's like going on a road trip, having like an RV. And so we went to beautiful places, and I found these holidays depressing. I stuck out like a sore thumb. I often felt the gaze of others, not just because I was usually the only black person in the caravan park or trailer park, but because I was a little black girl walking around with white parents. I was born in a private clinic in London in 1983 to my biological mom, a middle-class Nigerian woman. When she gave birth to me, she was 22 and unmarried. Oh, really, sis? Samesies. My mom, same thing. So she made the decision to leave me in the care of a white nanny. It wasn't particularly uncommon for Nigerian parents of the 70s and 80s to leave their children in the care of white nannies in the UK while they returned to live in Nigeria. We would live in the house with these white female carers, and their families. At best, we would be treated like one of their own children. But this process, known as private fostering, was completely unregulated, so I've heard some horror stories. My biological mom placed an ad in the local newspaper looking for a nanny, and when I was still a baby, 11 months old to be precise, is when I was taken by my nanny. The next time I would see my biological mom was when I was 6 years old. So I was a black child living in South Norwood in a predominantly black area with my white parents and their 2 biological children. If I was a child today living with my parents, people would ask me if they were woke. The answer, no. As long as I was clothed, fed, and looked happy, they thought they were doing a good job in terms of parenting. I think that's a lot of parents. If I'm honest, I don't think they were able to look beyond the surface. When I think about my mom, I know she loved me. I will never forget when she marched into school having into school after a teacher made the assumption that I couldn't read. I will never forget it because it was her way of protecting me. My dad, on the other hand, only tolerated my presence. On our caravan holidays, it would be my parents and my sister and me, as my brother is 18 years older than me. The four of us would go out for family meals, and my dad would make comments like, it would have been cheaper minus the one. The one was me. I had been in his care since I was 11 months old, and by this stage, he and my mom were my legal guardians. So this was a hurtful thing to say. When my mom died, I was 21. Following her death, my dad made no effort to contact me or show that he cared. My brother also made it clear that he didn't see me as a part of the family. When he was getting married, I was going to be a bridesmaid, but he refused to have me. He didn't want me to attract attention. If I could go back and choose what type of life I would live, I wouldn't choose a life where I was brought up by white parents again. I wouldn't want to go home and feel different. So that is a crazy story. There's more to it. So if you go to BBC News and you look in their story section, that was published December 19th in 2018. So you can find that. So that for me is super, super relatable. I'm biracial. I don't think you can really tell a black person's ethnicity by looking at them because we come in all different sizes, shapes, hair colors, and everything. So I'm biracial. My biological father is black or African American, and my mother is Mexican. So I grew up in my mother's household, going to my father's household on the weekends. And following my father, my mom dated probably one other black guy and then was with white man. And she married, both of my stepfathers were both white men. And even my older brother, he's black and Mexican as well, but he is really light and looks more Mexican than anything. He kind of has black features, but you would probably see him and just think he's Mexican if you don't see his curly hair or anything. So I was often the only black person in my home. And when I say often, I mean like I was. Like my dog had black fur, but that was about it. I was the black thing in there. So I grew up kind of not being able to identify with anyone in my home. And I kind of had to seek out my own tribe who identified with me and who had some of the same experiences. And I found that in my best friend and her family when I was 12 years old. So I want to kind of transition and dive into this topic of like problematic family members, because with Gina, she had her problematic stepfather and her problematic, brother who, like, you don't want me in your wedding because you don't want me to attract attention. Like, a black person in your wedding is just throwing the whole thing off. Like, that's crazy. And it's crazy to grow up in a family and just always be treated like the outsider. And I think it's really hurtful. And, for me, I never had to essentially feel that way, but something that I will say is that my blackness was ignored. I think something that that happens with a lot of biracial children is if we're with our parent who is not the parent who's a minority or a parent of color, if we're with a white parent or a different parent, they try to say that they don't see color, which that doesn't work because the rest of the world does. So you can't raise me like you don't see color because everyone else sees it. So all you're doing is just, not preparing me for life because I'll have to learn how to be seen as the woman of color I am on my own, which, I did eventually. So transitioning to dive deeper into this, I want to go into a keep it real session. So something that I want to say, a part of this section, I'm really blunt and I'm really honest, and I'll try to tone it down a bit so that I don't come off as like crazy. But a really great way to kind of help with this is, like I said, finding your tribe. So for me, I was able to really connect with my best friend and her family. My best friend was Black mixed with Black. And so her mother, I'm her bonus baby. I'm still best friends with her entire family and, them to this day. And they were able to teach me things that my own mother couldn't, just like different ways to take care of my hair, ways to moisturize my skin, ways to move about in society, because a lot of times we're not treated fairly. And that's something that people don't tell you. Being a Black woman or any person of color, when you're in a corporate setting, you can't act like everyone else. And no matter how much they say that everything is fair and equal and whatever the case may be, we have an obligation to be held to like a higher standard, because unfortunately we are judged more harshly. And it's not something that we can really control. It's just something that I've noticed really happens. And it happened to me when I was, in a not even super corporate structured environment. When I was in field production, I would, in a lot of spaces, I'm the only Black woman. And so when I was in field production, I was the only person on set. And so what everybody else in the crew would do, nobody would blink an eye at. And if I tried to be a part of the crew and I did it, it was wrong. And I'm just like, oh, okay. And like those kinds of things didn't make sense to me. And even the people who I reported directly to would be like, yeah, I don't know. Like, I don't know why you're being, judged more harshly for what everyone does. And even transitioning into like a corporate structure, you can have moments of frustration because you're being mismanaged or not handled properly. And if you let those moments of frustration show, you're then labeled as being an angry Black woman or having an attitude, or they don't trust you to be in a corporate environment around their clients because, sometimes the way that you speak, blah, 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 like just crazy things. And so I've been judged a lot and had a lot of harsh treatment towards me. And I'm not even the worst of the cases. I'm someone I have things like light skin privilege and pretty privilege that let me go into places and be treated nicer by others just because of the way that I look. So I know that this is just a taste of, how deep that really goes. So that went off topic from problematic family members and went into the workplace, but that is something that really hits me hard because I don't like when things aren't fair. I don't like when the scales are tipped. And that's really something that's a part of just my core values, is just like justice and integrity and different things like that. So I'm really good at calling things out, but I'm also good at trying to come up with resolutions. So I don't just call things out for the sake of it. I also try to fix them as well. So for me, when you find your tribe, you kind of have chosen relatives that you're able to connect with. Something that has happened in my family and just continues to happen is that, like, no matter what I do, for instance, I'm the only cousin in my generation of cousins who went directly to a 4-year college, who graduated for that 4-year college straight out of high school and had a degree. And like only one set of my aunts and uncles showed up. I'm half Mexican, like there's 5 of us and only one, you know what I'm saying? So it's just different things like that where it's just like my accomplishments are kind of like not a big deal, or people don't care, or they're just kind of more involved in their lives. But the people who did show up for me was my tribe, and the people who are close to me, and the people who do care about me. So I think something that we often do with family members is we give them more grace than they really deserve. We kind of allow them to treat us any old kind of way in the name of that's my blood, that's my family, that's my cousin, that's my this. But are you really doing the best thing for yourself in doing that? Are you protecting your energy when you do that? Or are you being dragged through the mud? Are you continuing to be put in situations and environments that you wouldn't be in, but since it's family? And I don't understand why we do that to ourselves. That's not something that we have to do. So, I mean, it's not selfish to care about yourself. And I think that's something that growing up Black, we're often, we're always going out of our way for appearances and for other people and trying to accommodate others. Even me growing up in a Black church, you will do everything for the church family. Anything that people need, you are there. Especially if you're in ministry, you're going above and beyond. But then, for your own parents, sometimes ignore your needs. For me, when I was moving to Los Angeles, I had my mother, who helped me with everything, and my stepfather and all of that. But my father was nowhere to be found. And he told me later it was because he couldn't contribute financially. But I told him later, it doesn't matter about the money. You being there to help me move a mattress, that would have, really just showed me a lot. Because my mother didn't make me on her own. She had some help. So, fast forward a few years later, when someone that he knew from the church, their child was moving to Los Angeles, and he reached out to me to make sure that they were accommodated and that they had everything that they need. And I kind of just lost it, because I was just like, where was that for your own child when she moved here? You didn't care about me, so I'm not going out of my way to care for these other people just for you to maintain appearances. So I think that that's something that happens often, and I don't think that it's fair. I think that, especially with our parents kind of treat us however, because they brought us into this world and they're our parents. But you have the choice to kind of, pick who you give your energy to and who you don't. And I'm not saying cut your parents off, but I know for me, I love my parents to death. But I distanced myself, not intentionally, but I distanced myself because I felt like I was chasing after my parents' love, and I shouldn't have to, because I'm their child. I didn't choose to have myself, they chose to have me. So now it's more reciprocal, and it's more us checking in with each other, which I really do love. But you control the way that people treat you. So you have to demand respect, and you have to kind of train people as to what's acceptable and what's not. And even if that's your family, your brothers, your sister, your mom, your uncle, anybody, all of the people close to us, even those people, they don't get a pass. So I think a lot of times we give these people passes unfairly just in the name of them being family, and we don't have to. And another thing that has happened in a lot of families since the change in the political climate recently is a lot of people being divided over their political views and over the things that they deem acceptable and not acceptable. I know with me, my stepfather is, he's Caucasian. And me and him have always been super close. We're both Sagittariuses. We think the same way. All of those great things. And it started pretty much with the police shootings. And, you start to see the line being drawn in the sand with how people react to things. So when people minimize it or try to say that they're being unbiased when innocent American civilians are being killed, you're not being unbiased. You picked a side, and it's the wrong side. You either support it and you understand what's going on, or you don't, and you don't want to be educated. And for me, it went as far as me having to deactivate my Facebook because I'm empathetic and I care too much for everyone, and I just found myself just battling people all the time. And it's one thing if someone is ignorant and would like to be educated. It's another thing if someone chooses to just kind of be like, you're being sensitive, your emotions aren't validated, I don't care what you have to say. So when you start to get those vibes from someone who isn't willing to be understanding, or from someone who wants to constantly question what is wrong, then you kind of have to distance yourself. And even if these people are family members, you just kind of keep them at arm's length, and just kind of allow people into your immediate day-to-day circle and surroundings that just contribute, that uplift you, that do the right things. They don't always have to be like-minded, But if we are going to disagree, we have to be respectful in the way that we think. We have to be open to hearing the other person's side. We have to be willing to apologize if we offend another person, whether your intent was to offend or not. If someone takes something that you say offensive, you have an obligation to own up and to hear out why they were offended. You can't just pass it off as they're being sensitive. You guys are so sensitive and this, that, and the third. And it's like, are we more educated than people our generation usually have been? Are more of us, seeking education? Is there more access to information than we've ever had in the past? And I honestly think that's what it is. And it's causing a rift between people who are millennials or in their early 20s, and people who are in their late 30s going into their 40s. I mean, some people in their late 30s are even millennials now. Us millennials are getting old. But I also want to say, not everyone who is a teenager or anything is a millennial. So I need you older people to stop using that as like a synonym with the youth, because there's an age bracket for millennials, okay? And we're old out here. We remember SNCC, all right? All right. That was my Keep It Real session. That was kind of like me releasing and kind of venting to you guys. But I just want to leave you with these pocket pickHERuppers, and I'll wrap it up. So one, again, it is okay to distance yourself from your family to protect your energy. That's okay. And we don't have to just allow ourselves to be treated any old kind of way because that's blood. We don't have to, do those things that we were commonly taught to do as just kind of like a sign of respect and things. I mean, be respectful, of course, to your parents, but I'm just saying, don't allow mistreatment from people that you love just because you're family and blood related. Also focus on the positive relationships in your life. Focus on the energy that people bring you. Focus on the kind of vibes that people are on, and just be very aware. Like, something that I get told a lot and that I take as the hugest compliment ever is that I have really good energy. And I love that because I like spreading that energy to other people. And I think vibes, energy, all of that, it's real. It has true effects on other people. And I mean, the proof is just kind of in your day-to-day life and how things are. And I know for me, a lot of my good vibes come from God, but that's just what I'm connected to. Everybody's good vibes can come from somewhere else, but protect your energy and keep positive relationships in your life. And the third thing that I would say is build the family that you want. The people that you are with, or even if you're dating, you can kind of focus on making these relationships the way that you would like family to be. Even if your immediate family doesn't treat you the way that you idolized or the way that you thought you should be treated, then you have the luxury of building the family that you want. So that's it for me. Thank you so much for tuning in, and we'll see you next time on pickHERupper.